Hello, everyone. This is Experience Matters with Eric Newton. This show is sponsored by ENE Group and Newton Scott Signature Homes. Today, I have Rain Whitrock, the Junior Chief of Staff for ENE Group. Rain, glad to have you on the podcast.
I'm super excited to have be on here and help you out with this.
Yeah. So I've had a lot of people tell me they've seen some of our other podcasts, and I'm usually the one interviewing folks. And so somebody said, well, what if we want to learn more about you, Eric? And so I said, well, I guess we could do that. So I decided to bring Rain on. Rain has been with me for how long? 2.5 years?
No, I think it's
3 years?
about 4.
4 years. Oh,
Four,
gosh. Wow,
almost
time's
5
flying.
now. Yeah.
So Rain used to coach my younger girls in soccer at CASA, and got to know him through that. And he came and did an internship with me when he was at Clemson. He was a finance major, just like I was. And he came to me, very ambitious fellow, and very, very proud of him and all that he has been able to do and accomplish since he's been working with me. And so I'll tell you a little bit about him maybe later on in the segment here. But Rain has, like I said, Rain came to work for us, I guess 4 years ago.
Yep.
Started out as an intern. We always have a lot of interns that work for us here at ENE Group. A lot of student interns. We have people from the graphics department, the marketing department, the finance department, sometimes the construction, the CSM program. So we were lucky enough to get Rain as a student and then able to hire him on after he graduated. And he's been with us, and I've been training him to do a lot of the things that I do. So he's been working in every department of our organization and has done a great job with that. Right now, he's doing construction supervision. So that's been a learning experience. He's been helping a lot with our estimating and building financial models for the projects that we do, using his finance background. And he's got a lot of common sense, and very happy to have him on our team. So
Thank you,
Rain, thanks for doing this. I know I kind of put you on the spot. I was going to just get up here and kind of wing it and talk by myself, but I felt like that was going to be a little weird. So I asked Rain to interview me. So he's going to ask me questions, and so y'all can get to know me a little bit better.
No, yeah. So I appreciate you bringing me on board and having me help you out with this and coaching me throughout the past, 4 or 5 years. And so, but
sorry, I butchered that. No, time's flying.
No, you've seen me from, obviously soccer into being an intern with you and, growing with you in this business. So I've had a lot of privilege to see, not just myself grow, but you grow and this business grow. And I'm very curious and have been able to pick your ear in a lot of things. So, kind of going into this, you're huge in Clemson. I mean, there's a lot of people that know you. You're very active in the community, Daniel High School, Clemson University. You have your name on a lot of signs. You're very respected, well known in this community. And, who are you? Like, what do you want people to know about you that may not know? Like, they know your name, but they not know who Eric Newton is. So can you tell me a little bit about yourself and just your business and how you came to be where you are now?
Yeah. So, well, thank you for those kind words. Well, I grew up in the area. I've lived here my whole life. I was one of the rare people that just decided to not leave. I love the area so much. I went to Clemson Elementary, which was at the time was called Morrison Elementary. It was on Frontage Road where Clemson United Methodist Church is, and then it moved out eventually out onto Berkeley Drive. But so I went to Morrison, then went to R.C. Edwards. It was junior high at the time. Now it's middle school, so it was like 7th through 9th grade.
Right.
When I went there, one of our interns, Maeve, her dad and I grew up together. And,
oh, really?
Yeah, and we both went to Morrison. We were in the same grade.
That's awesome.
And then went to Edwards, and then Daniel. We played. He was a punter on our football team
Okay.
and kicker, and then we also played soccer together.
What
So
what position did you play in football?
I was a linebacker.
Your linebacker?
Yeah, and I was a striker in soccer, and I wrestled multiple uh, weight classes throughout my career, but I was like 140, 145, and then 160.
Right.
But yeah, so it was like very fortunate to be able to grow up in a great area. I love
Mhm.
everything about the Clemson area. And then I had an injury in high school during wrestling season that pretty much ended my sports career. I thought I was
Right.
going to do a sport in college, but it didn't end up working out for me. I went into the surgery thinking that I was going to have, just getting a scope job, and
Yeah.
they said I would walk out of there, and then ended up being on crutches for like 2 or 3 months, and
Mhm.
told me I'd probably never play sports again. So fortunately, I was able to. I graduated a year early. I applied to Clemson, got in as a junior, and then went to Clemson. I was 17 years old, and I was a finance major, concentration in real estate. But I grew up in a family of builders.
Right.
Um, my grandfather was a rock mason turned builder. My dad got into the building business. There was also a lumber mill that existed there for a little while, a sawmill that where they milled lumber and sold lumber, and but primarily the family business was construction. And my family's built a lot of homes in the area, a lot of the homes in the Clemson, really Pickens, Anderson, Oconee County areas over the years. And so I grew up going to the job sites, and from the time I was a little kid, I think I jokingly say I stepped on my first nail, I think when I was like 2 or 3 years old. And so that's a mistake you try to only make one time. It hurt pretty bad. It went all the way through
I've
my
I've
foot.
I've made that mistake maybe 1 or 2 times, more than I
Yeah.
like, so
Yeah, but I started off doing just menial tasks, picking up
mhm.
trash, like being a gopher, doing whatever my older siblings asked. I have 3 older brothers. I got a younger sister and an older sister. The
Mhm.
oldest and the youngest are girls in the family. The girls moved away. All the boys stayed, and so I was fortunate enough to be able to work with them while I was in high school through college, and that gave me that construction background,
Right.
um, and the construction knowledge. I knew that I wanted to get into development, and I knew that I wanted more of a business background, so that was why I chose to major in financial management or
Right.
finance with a concentration in real estate. So I got my builder's license when I was a sophomore at Clemson, and then when I graduated from Clemson in 1998, I got my broker's license, um, my real estate broker's license, because I had a real estate
Right.
concentration. I was able to go straight for
Yeah.
my broker's exam. Most people take the path where they go like the Wyatt Institute or go to a real estate
Yeah.
school and get your take the required hours,
Yeah.
and then for the classes you pass the test for the class, and then you have to go take the state test, and then once you pass state test, you can get your preliminary or your provisional license, and
Yeah.
then you go take another 30 hours or whatever it is, and then you just did
Yeah,
it.
then you
So
then you work on your broker's license
yeah,
after that,
well, yeah,
so
you get your permanent
mhm.
license, and then you have to work under somebody for like 3 years, and then you can go get your broker's
Well, I think
license.
it's been changed now to 5
It's
now.
5.
Yeah,
Oh,
as soon as
okay.
I passed my classes for my real estate classes, the state just changed it to 5.
Oh, well, that's probably a good thing.
No, yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
I think it's smart.
Yeah, because you know, I was pretty wet behind the ears when I
You're very green.
I started my Palmetto Real Estate. It was just a sole proprietorship.
Right.
I was the broker in charge. I had an assistant, and I just started doing your traditional brokerage right out of school. Um, just trying to build my business. I had, like I'd said, I'd grown up with the construction background, and I knew that I wanted to take more of a development and
Right.
sales sort of path, and so um, getting that finance degree was really really critical. It opened my eyes to a lot of things
That you weren't really familiar with,
that I wasn't
especially
familiar
just
with.
in the
Yeah,
obviously in the construction industry, but that finance background, you think that's what really just, like you said, it opened your eyes, but did that really pushed you farther into where you are now? Was that like?
Yeah, it just became, it was like fascinating to me,
Mhm.
like the putting deals together, like putting real estate deals together. You know, I could build a house literally, you know, from the ground up. I'd done that. So that's cool to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But it wasn't as fascinating to me as being able to put together a real estate deal, you know, being able to identify a parcel of land and develop it into, you know, either single tracks for single family
Mhm.
homes, or to do it for commercial
Right.
purposes, or whatever the case might be. And I had a couple of classes that were, while I was at Clemson, that were really opened my eyes. Most of them were finance related.
Mhm.
I had a professor, Dr. Waller, who had a couple classes with him, and I was fascinated by some of the things that he had done in his career. Um, and then I had a class, Dr. Smathers. It was called an ag econ class,
Okay.
and which is odd, but it was a real estate appraisal class, and we actually had to do a full fledged appraisal, and at the time we didn't have, you know, internet like we have right now. I mean, I'm not that old, but I'm old enough to remember not having internet, and so like I think internet was introduced like my junior year. Like we were on the main for email, we were on the mainframe computer for my freshman and sophomore year, and then email was introduced, or internet was introduced, and it was just starting to get going, and nobody really completely understood it, and the impact that it would have. But it certainly wasn't anything that you would use in the, you know, the municipalities that we work with, or with the
Mhm.
counties that we work with. They were using actually hard copy books and
Right.
mainframe computers and things like that. So like we had to go research we had to pick a property, do an appraisal on that property, and the way we found our comps was, as we had to go up to the courthouse
Yep.
in Pickens County and research the property itself, and then find comps, and you had to do it through their mainframe computer, and then you had to go to their hard books. I mean, some of these books are, you know, were like this big.
Yeah, I remember going up with you one time and we were
Yeah,
doing some paperwork up there, and you was like, come here, follow me real quick." And you took me to this room, and to me it looks like a museum. I mean,
yeah,
but I mean that's
it
I think that's
does.
how they might treat it really now. But I mean, there's hundreds of textbook, like almost like they look like textbooks to me, but there are hundreds of these books that just contain tons of just different documentations for these
Yeah, like the
properties.
deeds and
Yeah.
the recorded deeds and plats and mortgages and all those things. And I mean, all those are recorded. I mean, you can still go up there and see
Hmm.
those. Now everything, they've tried to scan most municipalities, most counties have
Yeah, it's
have
all scanned
recorded. They've
in.
all
Most of it,
scanned
yeah.
all those things in. But at the time, you'd go up. They had a copy machine, and you'd go up there and you'd make copies of the stuff. And if you wanted to do a title search, like
Hmm.
you had to, you'd find deed book, you know, the deed book page number
Right.
for the parcel you're looking at, and then you'd see the chain of title through all the deeds that you would pull up, and you would make copies of those, and then you go back. Like if you're trying to do a title search for title insurance or whatever, you'd go back 40 years. But um, yeah, and then the copies of the surveys, like the surveys were, I mean, it wasn't done electronically. A lot of the surveys were done by hand, you know, with meets and bounds, and then those meets and bounds were referenced in the deeds. So, but then you had the tax maps. The tax map books were hard copy books, and they were just big, you know, basically blown up areas of of certain parts of the county, and with the outlines of the property boundaries. And if I ever wanted to research a property owner, I would just go. I'd find the street address. I'd actually physically go to the property, and I'd find the closest street address, and then I would go to the courthouse,
Go
type
find
in
the
that street
parcel.
address in
Yeah.
the mainframe, and then get the tax map number for that parcel, and then I'd pull that tax map book, and then I'd see which parcels, you know, were around the one I was looking for, and then I would make a copy of that and go take that back to the mainframe, and then I'd research who owned all the
Right.
parcels. So it mean, it was
That
way more
sounds really
difficult.
detailed
Yeah,
compared to what we're doing now.
yeah, and the crazy thing is like then it was easy to get a phone number because you had the phone
Mhm.
book. You had the white pages and the yellow page. Yellow pages were for like, this sounds so like just common sense to me, but I think for a lot of the young folks, they don't know, y'all don't understand like y'all never experienced a phone book. Like we had the white pages were residences and the yellow pages were businesses, and businesses, if you had like a phone number, your phone number would be in the yellow
Right.
pages, and the white pages. But if you're a business and you had a phone number, it would be in the yellow pages,
Mhm.
just a regular listing, and that was free. But if you wanted to advertise your business, you could buy blocks in the yellow page ads, um, to advertise your business. But it was easy to find a phone number. So as long as you had the name of the person and the
You
address,
just go look through the phone book to find the
you just
number
go
to
through the
reach
phone
out to
book,
them.
and so you could get in touch with people pretty easy.
Right.
Now it's the opposite. It's real easy to find out who
Records,
owns
but not
something,
not the phone numbers
not the
for the
phone number.
no.
And that's getting a little bit easier,
You're right.
but a lot of people are on do not call lists and things
Yeah.
like that. But that doing that being in that appraisal class and doing that appraisal opened my eyes. I was like, "Holy cow, this is so cool!
Mhm.
I can go research and see who owns a parcel, and I can call them to see if they're willing to sell." And that was a big advantage to me because not very many people knew how to do that then,
Yeah.
right? And so I knew I wanted to live and work here. I knew what I wanted to do, kind of what my goals were. Um, from a development standpoint, but it really gave me a huge competitive advantage early on in my career, just being able to do that. And then, doing the financial models in school through the finance classes, and then understanding, like the how banks work,
Mhm.
financial institutions. I mean, you probably took a financial
Yep.
institutions class or several classes, and just understanding how banks work, and um how how banks put together loans, like
Mhm.
Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, like lending guidelines, and all those cool things.
Yeah, so your land appraisal class you took and your financial modeling classes and your understanding of, the basics of lending is really crucial for your initial development going into starting your business, right? Um,
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of gave me that background. I kind of see it like it's like if you're going to be a carpenter, like if you're going
right,
to be a framer, like you can't just go out and start framing, and I mean, you could, but you probably
right,
wouldn't do a very good job. But like most framers, like worked under somebody,
right.
they might have carried two by
Yeah,
fours,
carry lumber.
carried lumbers or lumber, or they might have they probably were a gopher. They might have picked up trash.
Right.
They might have done a lot of things before they were able to start actually measuring and cutting
Hmm.
and putting things
So
together.
you're putting your hypothetical tool belt together,
Yeah.
right? You're learning how to hypothetically swing the hammer, right?
Hmm.
Um, and so like what I always found was really interesting whenever you're starting to introduce this stuff to me was, you know, when you're looking at parcels, and I would like to go in a little more detail about it with like from your perspective is, I mean, you're paying attention not just the land itself. Like obviously, you're going to look at initial parts like acreage, maybe where it's located. I mean, those are very basic things people talk about when you're in real estate classes. But what really dictates value of a parcel. You know, what I've really discovered is first off, it's zoning, right? You know,
Yeah, if zoning exists. Yeah.
if zoning exists for that parcel, with the location, I mean, you're looking at whether it's even buildable, correct?
Yeah.
And, whenever I've had conversations with some of your family members, they've always said, "You're the land guy. You're obsessed with finding parcels."
Yeah.
So, like, why were you so obsessed with these parcels, and why were these hypothetical tool belts what really created that competitive advantage, not just going into, the basic knowledge of them?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, somebody told me, one of my mentors at some point told me that land's not worth anything without improvements to the land, like
Right,
building or whatever. And there's a lot of truth in that. But I also think like we're in a point in time now where land is critical to the equation, right? Like
right.
a lot of these national home builders they're in a position to where they can buy these big tracts of land and do these big projects, and it kind of squeezes out some of the smaller guys that are trying to do developments because they have the ability to put land deals together.
Right.
It wasn't as difficult back when I first started. In fact, my first deal I bought, like, I can't remember, I think it was like 12 acres,
Mhm.
and I had a bank take a chance on me. A friend of mine that was a lender, he took a chance on me and gave me a loan. I bought the property. I had it surveyed. I timbered it, and like I got back like half of what I had paid for it just by selling the timber. Now a lot of this stuff you can't do anymore because everybody's figured out. Everybody's figured things out.
Yeah.
I mean, my whole point was is like I had a big advantage coming out of school, and that's a plus for going to school, right? I mean,
Right.
some people think going to college is worthless, but
Right.
I don't necessarily think it is. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why you should go to college, the social aspects of the networking and everything else. But I did. There were some classes I didn't learn anything in, but there were classes that I learned a lot in, and so I'm a big proponent of of going to college, for a lot of reasons. But I don't think that's the only path. But for me,
Mhm.
it was a great path, and it opened my eyes to things that I wouldn't have been, necessarily
Yeah, you weren't really exposed
ever
to.
exposed to. Yeah.
Right.
So, but just I became fascinated by being able to research and find out who owned parcels, and being able to see, like, when you're riding down the road, you have no idea who owns what, unless you're told. But you may know who owns, like, okay, he owns from the power line all the way down
Oh,
to
the fence
to
line
the
over
the
there,
fence
yeah.
line down here,
Yeah.
and but you don't know how big the track is unless somebody tells you. Well, he has 100 acres right there from the power line all the way down to the fence line, and the next guy, he's got 20 acres, and he goes from the creek, center line of the creek, to the barbed wire fence up there
Yeah.
by that oak tree, and blah blah blah. All that stuff fascinated me, and in some deeds, that's the way. I mean, they use chains to do the measurements and the reference points and stuff, and it was just fascinating to be able to see how all that worked, and how, like, I mean, every piece of land in our country has a boundary, right?
Right.
And being able to see how big they are, and and to see who owns them, and to see, and then start taking a step further, like what kind of restrictions. There could be deed restrictions, there could be zoning, as you
Mhm.
mentioned earlier. I mean, there could be a lot of things that come into play when you're trying to buy a piece of land, and for what you're trying to do on the land. I mean, some land restricts you against further subdividing it. Somebody put a deed restriction um, in their deed, not,
Mhm.
preventing you from
Subdividing.
subdividing it. So, there's everybody's heard of covenants and restrictions, just minimum square footage size, or building types and things like that. And then some people put crazy restrictions, like that the property can't even be sold again, or can't has to stay within the certain
How many of
family.
those have you experienced?
Not many, but there are some, and that, I mean, that's a whole nother topic that you
Yeah.
could talk about, because you've got, like, in environmental easements and things like that, that had become popular there for a little while. But or you give your land to Clemson University or the state of South Carolina, or you give it to some nonprofit, or whatever the case might be. Um, and then which could further restrict. Once a parcel's given to the university, then it's like literally takes an act of Congress for them to sell it. And so, but a lot of people gift their land to the university, and that's why the university is, I think, the largest landholder in the state of South
I think you're
Carolina.
right, yeah.
Yeah. And so, but it was all very fascinating to me, and I love the idea of being able to buy a parcel of land and then subdividing it into smaller parcels of land and selling it to people to be able to build homes on, or to be able to do, you know, apartments on, or be able to do commercial, or whatever the case might be. So, to answer your question, that was kind of a long-winded answer to get to your answer here,
Right.
but you really have to understand your market first.
Right.
Like, that was something that was a little difficult for me, but in the beginning, being young, you're not necessarily thinking about those
The
things.
broader topic, the broader, you know.
The broader topic, which is the market. I
Right.
mean, you've got the micro and the macro. Like at the micro level, like understanding it all the way down to the neighborhood, right?
Mhm.
And understanding like you got neighborhoods, some houses are worth more than others. Some neighborhoods are nicer than others. Some neighborhoods are luxurious. You have everything in between. Um, location, or you hear about location. That's one thing, and you learn in your appraisal in the appraisal class is like location makes a big difference. Like a parcel out on 123 is going to be more valuable than one that's you know back off the beaten path a little bit,
Yeah,
right?
out in the middle of the woods, in the
Yeah,
mountains somewhere.
and it's all about understanding the market. You got to understand your market first. So like you can go find a piece of property that, like if you're looking to do a residential subdivision, you could go find a dream property from a topographic standpoint,
Right.
and dimensions and size and everything. But if it's in an area that's not desirable, then it doesn't matter. And it really, you could be gifted the property and it might not be worth anything to anybody, right? And so just understanding the market first, and that's what I was able to be able to do pretty quickly because I grew up here. And so
So you knew all the neighborhoods.
I knew a lot of the
You might have rode your
neighborhood.
bike through it. You might have
Yeah.
drove your car, hang out with your
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah, and I mean, like, "Oh, yeah, I could see why houses in that neighborhood are worth more. Oh, yeah, I could see why, you know, I could see why that's a desirable place to live. It's
Right.
got amenities, it's got a pool, it's got a clubhouse, it's got walking trail, whatever the case might be." And so, or it's close to campus, it's close to Duke Energy, or it's close to Lake Hartwell, it's close to Lake Kiwi. Oh, I could see why a lakefront property would be worth more because more people are willing to pay
Yeah, there's
for
way more
to be
demand
on the
for
water.
those particular
Yeah,
parcels. Yeah.
yeah. So I was like, oh, this is starting to click with me, and um, so then I just started, depending on who I was trying, what my target market was, I would go out and try to identify parcels or lots, or tracts of land or lots to to sell to prospective buyers.
Right.
Um, and so I really early on in my career, I started just buying and selling land. And the first deal I did that I mentioned a minute ago was one of the most profitable deals I ever did in my entire career. If I could do a couple of those every year, I probably wouldn't do much of anything else. But it's gotten a lot harder to do
Yeah.
because everybody
You
is trying to do it now,
you
and
feel like the market's way more competitive now than it
it's way
is.
more competitive now,
Right.
and it's way easier to get information. I had an advantage because I knew how to get the information.
Oh, that's a really good fair. That's a fair point.
Yeah, and so now it's easy to get the information. So like you have people that are getting letters in the mail from people from California or
Right.
Montana or whatever trying to buy your land. They're unsolicited offers. They'll send you an actual contract in the mail to try to buy your parcel of land, and they're just trying to throw something up against the wall to see what sticks,
Yeah.
right? And the reason you're able to do that is because all that information is so accessible. And now with AI, it's getting even crazier. There are software companies out there that have algorithms to determine which parcels of
Hmm.
land have the highest probability of being developed and being able to be purchased, right?
Yeah.
Based on whatever the chain of title might be, because it can go search the chain of title and be like, okay, this is like, these are heirs that inherited this property. This is like third or fourth generation. It's gotten so convoluted now that they would probably be willing to sell because if it goes another generation, they're going to get nothing out of it when they go to sell.
Hmm.
So like it can. I think that AI is going to just change things drastically. Drastically, it's not going to be like it obviously like it was where I'm picking up the phone and calling somebody. And I mean it's going to happen so much faster. And the AI is going to be able to predict. I think this is
Yeah.
just my theory, going to be able to predict which parcels are the most developable and are going to be the lowest hanging fruit, so you don't waste a lot of time. Because I would spend, you might go through 100 parcels and get one, the way I was doing it
Hmm.
before. Now it's just like, it's just going to weed out all the ones that don't matter. It's like the ones that have, you know, 60, 70% floodplain
Hmm.
or wetlands or whatever, and or where, maybe it even narrows down, like this person just purchased this property a year ago. They're not likely to sell, I mean, there's all these different factors that weigh into the equation, but it's gotten a lot harder. It's gotten a lot harder
Right.
to
Now what?
find
Now the
good
follow up question for
parcels.
that is like we just talked about how accessible information is now. What makes the future developer competitive now? Com-
I think it's access to capital.
mhm.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of cash out there for real estate, and of course, that all goes in cycles. I went through, I didn't completely go through my bio, but like I went through that big recession in '08 and '09, and it was terrible. It was, there were times where I'm like, am I going to be able to recover from this? I mean, I had focused a lot of my attention on single family development.
Right.
Fortunately, I had my brokerage and my
Your
property management company to fall back on during that time. So I'll back up and I'll say, so while I was doing, your traditional brokerage, and
property management.
I was doing development,
Right.
mostly single family development. I was building a few houses here and there, but I was primarily letting my siblings and father that build houses, and I was helping all their clients find land, and I was doing a lot of development consulting, developing a lot of land for them, for myself, and for them, and buying and selling lots for their clients. And so, I mean, I started the development deals, kept getting bigger and bigger, um, and then all of a sudden the market crashes, and it's like somebody turned the faucet off, and banks weren't lending money anymore.
Mhm.
There were foreclosures. Guess what happens when you have foreclosures? That drives the
Value
values
down.
down, which makes it harder to get your appraisals. And so, um, and and that was happening in record numbers. And then land development loans were going south. I mean, I had hundreds of lots that were worthless, and I couldn't give them away. Now I wish I had those again, but that's why it goes in cycles. So I mean, I went through that, but during that time, I had accumulated some rental properties, had developed some student housing, and bought some rental properties, and started that property management company. Started Tiger Properties to manage the properties that we owned, and that me and my brothers owned, and that turned out to be one of the best decisions I ever made, because that's what pulled me through the recession. It got me
Yeah.
through the recession, so I was able to regroup. Started focusing more on my brokerage and on the property management. I grew the property management through the recession. I mean, it grew tremendously, and just by doing things different, doing what I thought, doing managing things
The
better than the way other companies were managing. That was my goal, was to do a better job, and to gain market share that way. I would never badmouth any of the other companies. I just wanted to do things better, and I felt like everybody would recognize that.
right.
And and that's what we did. We grew a ton, and then things just kind of came full circle, and I I started building again. Well, with the property management company, we were already, our we were doing a lot of turnovers, which is like little
Mhm.
mini remodeling projects for every property that we managed, that turned over every year, or just about every year. You're going and painting, cleaning, cleaning the carpets, fixing all the little issues. And so I used my construction background to do that, and do that more efficiently than most. I was able to I had a vendor network already from being in the construction industry, so that gave me an advantage, and
Mhm.
I was able to do that better, keep my costs down. Like I didn't look at the maintenance as a revenue source. I just wanted to be a good property management company, and so we kept those costs down for our owners, which attracted more
More
owners.
owners to you.
So
Yeah.
allowed us to grow. And so then we started doing remodeling, like actual remodeling projects, where we were remodeling for other people, and where we were um, flipping houses and things like that. And then it started building again, and then started developing again, and then it kind of just started snowballing from there. And then I partnered with a property, with an owner that we owned, or that we managed for property that we built back in 2003, a student housing project that we built and sold. And I assembled all the parcels above it and developed uh, Tigertown farmhouses, and with those guys, and we managed that. So I was utilizing my entire skill set, assembling the parcels, getting it entitled, which required me to go find out who owned the parcels, contact them, encourage them to sell, make them offers, draw up the contracts using sales contracts, and that, from the brokerage side of the business, um, and then, going through the entitlement process, understanding the market, understanding the zoning and what we could do, then designing it with our engineers, and then designing a product, again, understanding your market that we felt like would be marketable to the students. And then um, and then once we got it designed, then search for capital. The capital was there. Search for the the debt. We were able to get the debt, a good
Mhm.
blend of the debt and the equity to put the project together. And then I was able to go out and execute and do the horizontal development. You had to put in all, the clearing, grading, doing all the horizontal, putting in the water, sewer, curbing, the paving, all that stuff.
Yeah, that was one of the most like incredible things for me being introduced to was, I'm so when I'm introduced into the industry, I thought there was more of a linear focus for everybody. And then whenever I start interning with you and all the conversations we've had and all the conversations I've been a part of with the vendors, any investors or people that we manage properties for, um, just how encompassing we are as a company. And it's so incredible to me that we're able to do feels like everything. I mean, I feel like from an outside perspective, it looks like we're everywhere, but we are, but we're also very organized in how we do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I learned pretty quickly. I was like, being vertically integrated is very important. Though development's always been my passion.
Yeah,
I could never get the construction part, the vertical part out of my blood. It was just in me.
you just couldn't.
And
Yeah,
and I was like, I hated that I was good at it, right? Like, that I knew so much about it. It was just like I just want to do development. But yeah, it just came full circle. So you put the infrastructure in, and then you're like, all right, we're gonna build all the
yeah.
houses.
Just jump on, and there's no reason to wait on a third party company, so to say, to jump
Yeah, I was
on and
like,
start building. I mean, like, all right, we're done putting everything, all the horizontal stuff together. Let's just
yeah,
start throwing everything on.
we're gonna build it. I mean, and you're using your financial background to
Yeah,
put together the models to know whether they're gonna, doing the pro formas, and then the estimating and being able to create the budgets and everything to know whether the deal is gonna actually pencil out and actually
yeah.
work. I mean, and so, of course, you could create the budget and it could still not work.
Yeah,
But
that's the funny that's the interesting part for me is, you know, when you're putting together these budgets and we've put so many together and you're like, hey Rain, one of the most important things you need to really understand is what the costs are for everything.
yeah,
Why does, framing cost this much for this particular house versus this particular structure right here? Why is the foundation dictate potential cost of the entire house too? The overall footprint of the house dictates the price of
why
it
does the
potentially.
land
Why
the
does
la-
the land? Because
why is the land so important
yeah,
part of the equation? Because you could blow your budget
you could
on
blow everything. Yeah,
clearing and grading. So
yeah, and,
yeah,
and and that's what I came in. I started working for you on the tail end of Cambridge Creek when you guys developed and built it and leased it. And I've been very fortunate to be part of the Maverick Hills development. We put together. Um, and when I'm having conversations with our new batches of interns that come in and come out, is you got to understand the market. That's huge, but you also got to understand why things cost the way they do. And just because a deal might pencil in market wise, but if you can't pencil in the cost factors to put together the project, I mean, it just doesn't. It
right.
won't work.
Yeah,
Like
and you can't just charge whatever you
yeah,
want.
you can't.
That's where understanding your markets.
Yeah,
So you start with your market, and then you work backwards. Like, I know I could sell this product, I could rent this product, or whatever for this amount. So you got to understand that first, and then back into it. And like,
right.
okay, now this is going to cost this, and I can sell it for this. And if there's no margin there, then there's
Then
no
there's
point in
no
doing
point
it.
putting together a project. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like that for any business, right?
Hmm.
Like if you're going to make a mug, you got to know how much it's going to cost you to make that mug, and you got to know how much you can
And
sell it
sell
for.
for it.
Like, what
Yeah.
are people willing to pay for that mug? And so, same thing. I mean, you could build something and it be worth less than
What you put
what you
into.
paid to,
Yeah.
or what it cost you. And it's amazing how many people don't understand that simple concept. But that's and so I've always you know what my one of my biggest pet peeves is
Mm.
inefficiency. So like I've always tried to capitalize on inefficiencies. And so and I don't like somebody telling me I can't do something, or that makes me want to try to do it even
Do it
more.
even better than, yeah.
Yeah, and so like I'm going to try to capitalize on inefficiencies. I've done that my entire career, and it's like if somebody says that it's going to cost you this amount to do it, and I'm going to say I bet I can do it for this. And that's that's worked well for me in my entire career. And sometimes the people that you're soliciting bids from, they may not even understand that they can do it for what you know
Right.
what you think they can
Yeah.
do it, what I think they can do it for. I mean, I'll give you an example. When we were doing turnover painting, um, back when I was growing the property management division, like I had painters that in my network, that we called on, and some of them were like, I can't paint a 3-bedroom unit for $360. Like, all we're asking you to do is fix the nail hole, fix the holes in the walls, and if there's anything over the size of a quarter, we'll pay you $25 for a nail hole size, or a hole the size of a quarter, or larger, unless it's a really big one, of course. But
Yeah.
nail holes, you include that, you sand them out, you roll the walls, you touch up the trim as needed. And at that point, I was getting it done for like $360, and painters would be like, they look at me like I was crazy.
Hmm.
Now it's not that cheap now, but
Well,
think
yeah,
costs
but
have gone way up. But and my owners appreciated that, like that I was negotiating, and I was showing them. I'm like, all right, look, you're not going to make a whole lot of money on one unit, but you're going to make a lot of money by
over
doing
the
a
10,
hundred
15,
units.
yeah.
So there's a big, if I say $360 for one unit, or $360 times 100, that's a lot of money. And so then you have to figure out as the painter, and I would show them like, this is the team you got to put in those units. And you as the business, I was dealing with the business owners, like, if you put the right people in there, and you structure it properly, you can get in and out. I mean, this is a turnover paint. It's not a, $10 million home paint job. It's just freshening the paint job up, and everybody expects the place to be painted, and it needs to look good. You don't need to get paint all over the doorknobs, and you don't need to get paint on the carpet and make a mess. There's a way to do it. My point is like, a lot of times people would think they couldn't do something, then they'd figure out they could, and they're like, all right, I'm going to make $36,000 in 5 days. That sounds pretty attractive, right?
Yeah.
And so everybody benefits from that scenario, and just understanding, and it's making people think outside the box. And so those principles are principles that we use in construction. So like, if you're doing project based stuff and you're building the same thing over and over, like, everybody tends to want to price things on a per square foot basis, but that may not be the best way to to do it. And not every trade prices things that way, but but you can implement those principles at every level, and in every different type of asset class. Like, we're building a lot of homes in the 750 to $2.5 million range with the Newton Scott brand that we're doing. And we've been doing that. We've been building homes on Lake Kiwi for a long time. A lot of people don't even realize that, but we've been building homes for a while. And but we've tried to use those same principles. It's like, it's really about scheduling. I mean, you see what I have on the board
Yeah.
there. Find the balance between speed, quality, and price, right? Like, you're not sacrificing quality. You're not
Right.
sacrificing quality when you have a tight schedule.
No, yeah, that was one of the first principles you introduced to me about, potential competitive advantage is, a lot of people think that you know, the time for a house, let's say like most people may be able to build one house in 8 months. We're able to do it in six. They might see that as us skipping the quality portion to it. But it's really just like you said, it's the tight schedules. As soon as you're done with certain inspections, you already have the next guy lined up, and then the next guy lined up after he's done, and making sure all your vendors know that, hey, when can you start this? When are you gonna be done? Okay, cool. I'm gonna get the next guy in. You got me. You're gonna be done, right?
Right.
Absolutely. Okay, cool. Get the next guy, next guy in, and you never want a job site empty
Right.
because then it's just wasted days that could have been used for
That's
someone
right.
else.
And how often do you go to job sites and see them? There's nobody working, and it's like
Mhm.
the fact that nobody's working has nothing to do with the quality.
No, nothing to do with it.
And so that goes back to the using the same principles, like to do a project where you're building a lot in a shorter period of time. It really comes down to just planning and scheduling and having good relationships with your vendors and your subcontractors, and being able to get them. I mean, they got to take you serious, right? Like they like people know when we're going to do a project, we're going to do it.
Yeah,
Like we're not
it's
messing
happening.
around.
Yeah.
And so it's like, look, I need you to show up when you say you're going to show up. I need, I'm going to negotiate a price with you that is better than what other builders might, you might be able to charge other builders, but we're going to provide you with a lot of work. And so using a lot of those same principles, we're able to get things done in a
Yeah.
more efficient manner. And I can't stand when I see, I mean, it happens, like there are things that change in the market. Like
Yeah.
right now, windows are back to long lead
Yeah, it's
times
like
like they were during COVID, not quite as bad as they were during COVID, but like trying to plan for, an 8 to 10 week lead time for windows is
it's
ridiculous to
it's
me.
it's it's tough,
Yeah.
especially. But I mean, there's only so much that you can do. But there's are things that are out of our control, and the stuff that we do have control on, we do a great job of maintaining that
Right.
efficiency.
Yep. You're exactly right. And so, I mean, those are the things that um, that I've worked really hard on over the years. I feel like, I've been, you'd probably agree, I'm kind of a workaholic.
Mhm.
But I actually enjoy, I was talking to somebody today. They were like, I was talking to my waterproofing guy, had a meeting with him this morning, and he's at retirement age. He said, my wife's trying to get me to retire, but I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I was like, I don't know what I would do if I retired. I'm like, I get you, man. As long as you're enjoying doing what you're doing, keep doing it. Keep your mind fresh. And when a lot of people try to make money off their hobby, but if your career
Is your
how's
hobby?
your hobby,
Yeah.
then and you're having fun. I mean, like, look, now there's times where I'm not having fun. I mean, there are times where things aren't going as well as I'd like, and I don't have fun. I'm just like any human being where you
Right.
have good weeks and bad weeks, and things don't go well, and you just have to learn how to go with the flow. But in general, I really enjoy doing what I'm doing. And I've also really enjoyed being able to, with us being vertically integrated, we got development, construction, sales, and property management. I mean, we're very nimble. Like we can,
Oh, that's a huge point. I
yeah,
agree.
yeah, like we can pounce on opportunities, whenever they come up. Like right now, the student housing market, we've done a lot of student housing over the years. Right now, the student housing market is getting saturated, right? So doing another big student housing deal right now is just not that attractive to me, because, and I'm not saying that I'm never going to do one again. I'm just saying it's just not that attractive to me. But because we're vertically integrated, we can shift our focus, and that this partnership is with Jeff and Newton Scott has been well timed, right? We've been building houses on Lake Kiwi. We've been building houses in the upstate for a long, long time. And just because we haven't really advertised it as much as we are now.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we've been doing it, so we can pivot into that and
And then
very
just easily
easily.
pivot right back
And
to
then,
building, and
yeah,
even yeah.
I mean, and we have divisions, as within our construction
Mhm.
company. I mean, we can do the project based stuff very easily, and we can do the high end stuff. We've got a lot of those homes that we're building up on at the cliffs,
Right.
at the springs right now. We're getting ready to start one up at the vineyards.
Right.
Um, we've got a lot of momentum there. We've got the preserve at Heatherwood,
Yep.
um, a higher end neighborhood at the end of existing Heatherwood subdivision off Esquina Trail in Clemson. There's 14 houses in there. That's a project that Jeff and I are doing and really excited about. And so it's just been really easy to pivot to those things, and we're good at it. Like, and we get better and better with it. And then obviously with the launch of our interior design company, Jessica, my wife's been doing that for a long, long time. She's been very good at it.
I'm
She's
very excited. This
yeah,
is this is well deserved under her
yeah,
end.
spatial interior design company. I mean, she knows what she's doing. She's very efficient with it. She's a big part of our efficiency too. I
Yes.
mean, that's obvious. And so she's been people have been asking her to do things for her, and we're like, we just need to make that a part of our part of our business, part of the E&E group. And so that's her deal, and she's gonna run it. We've got that showroom, that really nice showroom here at our think tank space downtown Clemson
Yep.
on Sloan Street. She did a great job with that, and she can bring all the clients there. There's a meeting space. It's a place to do what we can
Show
do
off all
events.
the
Yeah, and
selections,
show off.
events, and
Yeah, show off what she's capable of, and it's just really exciting times, and the fact that because we've been vertically integrated and we can just pivot when we start to recognize trends. That's another thing. It's like
mhm.
you start to recognize trends. I've been doing it long enough like where you can start to see. It's like, oh, I see the writing on the wall. I can see where this is going. Like, uh, this particular thing is not going to be viable for a little while. Don't
Yeah.
focus your attention on this. So let's pivot to this other thing.
Yeah, that's a great point because over the past, I'd say year and a half or so, you've been in my ear and everybody else is like, we really need to start hitting single family hard again. We need to
Yeah.
just push through and get it going. I mean, it looks like we're really busy, but we're not even close to what's going on. Like, we got a lot in the pipeline.
Yeah. I mean, and just once we made that conscious decision to say,
Mhm.
hey, instead of building, you know, 10 to 15 houses on the lake, let's take it up a notch, and let's focus on that 750 to $2.5 million range, because that's a niche that's underserved,
Right.
right? The national guys, they've got all that.
Yeah,
The
they're
starter home,
mhm.
the affordable, more affordable, type home. They've got that covered. That's hard to compete with. I mean, we could. I know we could. And if you told me that I couldn't, I probably would try, but I'm not. I don't want to.
Yeah.
But like, this is a niche that I feel like we are very good at. I mean, we're very good at it, and our team is awesome. We've got a good accounting team, a good construction team. We've got you're learning every day, and I've been very proud of how you've progressed over
Thank you.
time.
Appreciate
And
it.
I've tried to let you fail. I've tried to let you, you know, try not to let you fail too often, but you learn from your
Learn
fail.
from,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so, you've got several projects under your belt right now, with my guidance and with guidance from other people on the team, and you've done a fantastic job so far. And so, like, but that's, we're still in growth mode. We're still in growth mode. And
When does growth mode ever end?
yeah, I mean, if you're not growing, you're dying,
Yeah.
right? So I'm really excited about all the stuff that we're doing with Jeff, with the Newton Scott brand, and I'm excited about all the other projects that are in the pipeline, um, and just everything that we've been doing. I'm excited about the sales team with Jessica Williams and then Newton Scott and Associates, with Jeff joining the team, and very, very proud of what we've done. We always try to do things the right way, and I'm also very proud that I can live and work in the area where I grew up. And people are like, you need to branch out into other markets, and that's something that's on the radar. But there's a lot to be done here, and um, I know some people don't like certain aspects of like the student stuff. They don't like all the student housing that's being developed, and
Hmm.
I get that. I get that. Why certain people would want to see different types of of um, projects being developed, but it all starts with the market.
It all starts with the market and feasibility.
Yeah.
So
So the same reason why I'm going to lay off of that for a little while is because it's just getting ready to get saturated with all the new projects that have been approved, and so I'm focusing on another niche
hmm
within our vertically integrated platform, and it's been really fun, and it's bringing pulling together all my skill sets.
now, what is the most challenging thing that you think you're going to experience the next 5, 10 years when it comes to being a developer and vertically integrated company?
I think the biggest challenge is going to be land.
Land.
Yeah, I mean I've I've been trying to build an inventory. I've been trying to identify parcels of land. As I mentioned a minute ago, the national home builders have a huge advantage
Well, yeah,
when it
they
comes to
have significant amount of capital they
they
can
have
spend.
huge amounts of capital, to buy large tracts of land. So and develop these subdivisions. That's why you see them popping up everywhere. Um, and a lot of people don't like that, but it's just. I mean, there's a housing
There's
there's a
there's
housing
there's a huge
shortage.
market for it. I mean, you can't blame them in that sense. They're providing a product, and there's
Yeah,
people buying it. So
yeah, and it's you're getting in a lot of cases. In some cases, you're not getting a good product, but in a lot of cases, you're getting a good product for the money, for the price you're paying, and so I mean, it's like a commodity. It really is. I mean, a lot of the products that are going into building the house are commodities.
right.
Wood is you know wood is a commodity, right? Lumber is a commodity. Um, but a lot of people aren't happy to see all those developments pop up, but it th- that's what the market really wants. I mean, let's be honest. They want a
Hmm.
new home. They want it to be affordable. And so, affordable housing is a big topic right now.
Right.
And that's something that we're exploring too, is just how we could potentially, do some affordable type project based stuff. I don't want to get in the rat race of, doing like the track neighborhoods. I just we have a hard time competing there, but there may be some opportunities with the affordable or workforce housing. Um, so it's something we're looking into, but I think the biggest challenge is, to answer your question, is going to be just finding
Finding the
the
parcels.
land to do the deals and to be able to keep um, the overall price point reasonable. Even somebody that's building a $2.5 million home, I mean, it's all relative.
Hmm.
That it's all relative to what their income is or was, and they have a cap. And if 2.5 million is your cap, you can't go pay 1 million for your lot, right? And expect to have you know, a house, be able to build a house for, $2.5 million.
Right.
Or you kind of be crazy to do that. But so
Yeah. Do you think that's also an advantage on your end, from all the experience you have, when it comes to development, construction, sales too, is also taking a client who may not have any experience in this industry and be able to educate them and to help them understand, the type of house they can buy or can afford, or help them to find land to build their quote unquote dream home on. Can you go a little bit about that and
yeah, I mean,
what's your advantage there?
it's a good question because there's different levels.
Right.
Um, a stick frame home is a stick frame home, but there's ways to keep costs down. There's ways to value engineer the design. Um, you see a lot of homes in these tract neighborhoods. They're very boxy plans.
Right.
the reason that is because they're just simple. Like they're literally a box,
Yeah,
and then
the
they
simplicity of
with
the
trusses.
trusses. Yeah.
Yeah, two story home. A two-story home's cheaper to build than a one-story home
Why is
in
that?
most cases. You don't have as much foundation, right?
Mhm.
So, if you're on a one-story home and you're spread out, it takes up more of the lot. So it's not necessarily, you may not even be able to fit on a lot of lots. Now there's, because land costs are getting so high, you're trying to
There also
build
might be
density.
zoning restrictions on that as well, right?
Well, yeah, I mean there could be, you might be limited in what you can develop, but if you're trying to get density
Mm-hmm.
to spread out those development costs over a lot more lots, like you're probably going to have smaller, more than likely you're going to have smaller lots unless you just you steal it. But most developers are going to try to maximize density, but at the end of the day, you got to have a marketable product, right?
Right.
So, but it really boils down to what you're putting in to the house. If you're using, for example, just laminate countertops versus granite, and there's different levels of laminate. You can get a high end laminate countertop, but there's different levels of laminate, and there's different levels of granite. There's quartz, there's quartzite, there's all kinds of different things that you can do in a house, and it depends on the skill sets of the people installing.
Right.
If you have people that aren't used to doing a particular thing, they're going to charge you more because they're going to be slower at it. It's going to take them longer. Now, if you have somebody that specializes in, they're able to specialize in doing one particular thing and make a comfortable living doing that one particular thing, and they're able to do it more efficiently than everybody else, they can probably charge a better price. But
Right.
if you have highly specialized, like we talked about that driveway that we're looking at, the exposed aggregate
Yeah.
driveway, there aren't a lot of companies around that do that, right? And so we're going to be pouring a driveway like that, and even us, we're not doing it a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but we're going to have to find somebody that knows how to do
Knows how
that
to do it.
efficiently, or
Yeah.
we're going to pay through the nose for it. So, and which we'll have to pass on to the consumer. So there are things like, I mean, you have some clients that will go, they'll go travel overseas and they'll find a door that they
Some
love and they
special
have it
type of
shipped.
door.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
like in Italy and they find some door they like and they have it shipped back. So you have all the shipping costs, and you know, um, you could have a ceiling fan looks identical to this one over here, but this one's $200 and this one's $2,000.
Right.
And it's understanding products, it's understanding, um, how the products will relate to what you're building and how they would fit into what you're building. So that comes from an interior design
Yep.
perspective. Um, and then like if you're gonna build a $3 million house or a $4 million house, most people in that price point don't want to put. They're not going to pick the $20 or the $60 ceiling fan to put in there. So it just kind of snowballs, right? But if you're trying to stay within a certain price point, and whoever might buy the home later on down the road is
Yeah.
expecting this kind of the same, then they're going to expect the products to be at that particular level. I hope that makes sense.
No, that
But
makes a ton of sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
but you're not going to put a track home light fixture in a $2 million home.
No.
But if you could buy it, where we have an advantage is if we can buy a $2,000 light fixture cheaper than most people can buy
Mm-hmm.
that same fixture. If we can pay $1,800 and pass that cost savings on because of the volume that we do, because of all the other stuff that we're doing, then that gives us an advantage.
So it sounds like from a cost perspective, it's down to the experience of our design selections and helping, like Jessica working with the clients and saying, hey, this is where we budgeted for. This is where the allowance is. I know you want this particular fixture. I found a substitute that's very, very similar to it at this price point. You think a client would really appreciate that perspective from her. And it also sounds like the relationships that we have with these vendors is incredibly crucial when it comes to keeping these
It
costs
it i-
down.
it is, and it's being able to it's mutually beneficial. It's
Right.
beneficial for our vendor or our sub, and it's beneficial for us because like what at the end of the day, we want to be able to pass those savings on to them, onto our clients, and so because we understand our market, right? Like
Right.
and and somebody might say, well, why'd you cap it at 2.5? Like why did you cap? I I mean, if somebody came along and wanted to build $3 million house, we would do it.
It has to
It's
make
ju-
sense
it just
for
has
the
to make sense.
product.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it has to make sense for the location, the product, what we're the logistics of it for us and everything else. It's just I know that's probably that threshold where it starts to get into another echelon
Yeah, that starts to get into
of
like very, very customized.
yeah, and the level of experience, and we try to provide the highest level of experience no matter what. But like when you start getting into that really upper higher price range, it's like it's a totally different expectation and experience. And so um but yeah, I mean it's a balancing act, right?
Yeah.
And it's knowing what your strengths and weaknesses are and being able to capitalize on those
Right.
strengths and weaknesses.
Now, going into the future wise is, where do you see ENE Group, Newton Scott, Signature Homes, even Spatial? I mean, everything that, we're all involved with. Where do you see us the next 5 to 10 years? I mean,
Yeah, and I mean, we could talk about all this stuff. Well, we
mm,
could talk about all the components, like, and tell. I could tell
what,
story after story.
yeah,
And this is probably a good question to end on for this particular podcast. But I I I see us. I think it's fantastic, and you hear me say it all the time. I
yeah,
think it's fantastic that we are nimble and that we're able to redirect our attention wherever we see fit, wherever it makes sense with the current team that we have or what's going on in the market. Again, I can't emphasize
the
more the
market, the
market,
market, the market, the
understanding the
market, the
market,
market. Yeah,
um, and being able to be in a position to pounce on the opportunities as they present themselves. And it's being humble enough to know that okay, the way I did things, you
10,
know,
15 years ago.
almost 30 years ago,
Hmm.
when I first started out, like you can't do them the same way. And so you have to evolve. And so we have to I think it's really awesome that we are so nimble that we can evolve as a company. And we do a lot of cross training within the company. I've taken you under my wing, like I'm training you on a lot of things that I do. And so like I mean, you could go do property management, you could go do sales, you could do development, you could do construction. Right now you're doing construction, you're learning that part, you're learning the financial aspects of things, you're learning how to do the estimating, building out the models and everything. And so those are things, I mean, we're building out our model is nimble in and of itself,
Yeah,
right?
it's nimble
It'll
and it's and itself is constantly evolving
and
too.
it's
Right.
evolved. And we can go the development path, project based path, or we could go the highly customized path if we wanted. If we needed to shift our focus on, just property management for a little while, if God forbid we had another
Housing
housing
crisis. Yeah.
crisis, we could do that. And so, to me, I think that's what I see us being our biggest, what I see being our biggest competitive advantage is just being able to to be able to redirect our attention whenever we need to.
Right.
So,
Oh, that's awesome.
yep. Well, I don't like talking about myself, but I felt like this was something we needed to do.
No, yeah, I feel like a lot of people know about the company and they know your name, but a lot of people also don't know who you are as a person, what your objectives are, and where you want to be. I mean, your family's been in this, area for many, many generations, and they know of y'all, but they don't know what you guys do, and
Right.
why. I think that's really important too, especially just want to create that,
Yeah. It's
community here.
And I think before we end, I think it's important, like, for everybody to know that my family is very important to me. I'm loyal to those that are loyal to me, but I've got 4 daughters. I got two
Mhm.
that are at Clemson. I've got one that's at Daniel High School, one that's at Edwards. Um, Being able to go to dance competitions, working for myself. I'm my own boss, which is nice because if they have a lot of events,
Yeah.
dance competitions when the girls were doing those were long weekends, and being able to go do that and being able to go to travel. I'm going to Atlanta this weekend with Davis. Jessica's going to Charleston with Grayson for a tournament down there, soccer tournament with Daniel. So being able to do that, being able to travel with my family, this is very important to me. Being able to spend time with my family, and then not my immediate family, and then my being able to spend time with my siblings and my parents and everything else, and then my work family. Just being able to live and work in the town that I grew up in, and my family is a really important part of things. So, well, yeah, I think that's good for this particular
I
podcast. I
agree.
think we talked long enough. So, unless you have any other questions, I want to bring it to a close.
No, I think it's a great start, and we can go into the, as you say, into the weeds on some other stuff later on.
Yeah,
So
yeah, we'll do it again. I
absolutely.
mean, we've got a lot of future
Hmm.
guests lined up, but I think these are good to sprinkle in there, and it's good to know what makes everybody tick.
Hmm.
So this podcast, Experience Matters, has been sponsored by Newton Scott Signature Homes and ENE Group. Without those two sponsors, we couldn't make this happen. We've got a great team, and I'm glad to be able to do this. If you have any topics that you'd like to talk about, feel free to email us or contact us at any time. But again, this is another edition of Experience Matters with Eric Newton.